Greetings, fellow citizens of Disneyland. Hey, you're not alone if you want Disneyland to reopen, because Disneyland is ready to reopen and the cities surrounding the Disneyland Resort are ready to reopen. It seems like a lot of people are ready to reopen, but everybody is not so patiently sitting by waiting for guidelines to reopen by the state of California. Now, because I know many people have a small attention span and they watch the first 30 seconds of a video, we'll get to this in greater detail later, but I want to let you know there is something everyone here can do to demand that the state of California give the theme parks guidelines to reopening. So you can do your part by signing the petition at this website, reopenocnow.com. I'll have the link in the description box below, and I'll do one of those little floater things somewhere here in the studio. You can go over there, sign the petition. We'll talk about that later. I just want to get that out early for the people like, I'm bored. But for the rest of you willing to make the long haul on a 10-minute video, let's look into Disneyland and the cities that surround the Disneyland Resort running out of patience, demanding that the state of California give them reopening guidelines today. As you may remember, a couple of weeks ago, Josh D'Amaro, as we like to call him, JD, the chairman of the Disney Parks Experiences and Products, said that Disneyland is ready to reopen. And he said this going back a few weeks. And ever since JD made that statement, we've been seeing the Disneyland Resort. Every day there's a new photo that gets online, a new shift that we're seeing where Disneyland is really gunning to get the park as ready as possible for reopening. And there's literally a trickle every single day of a new indication that someone spotted that the park is going to open any day now. And I've been telling everybody, you have to have patience. It's not going to happen any day now. Disney can do anything they want to reopen. They can have the park as ready as possible, but it's not up to them. And when they do eventually get the guidelines they're looking for, it's not a quick fix. And while we're early on in this conversation, I just want to break this topic down. The theme parks of Southern California are looking for reopening guidelines, not a reopening date. It's a very different thing. A reopening guideline will be issued showing each theme park, each city, what they need to do to reopen their large-scale entertainment events. Now, this could be physical modifications to the park, all the different social distancing that the parks have been implementing, or it can also be operational differences in guest experiences and how the parks themselves manage us, their guests. Essentially, Disney and all the other theme parks are looking for, what do we need to do with our parks and with our staff to reopen? And also, the surrounding cities are looking for, what do we need to do with our cities and our citizens to reopen? What are the health and safety guidelines that we need to adhere to? And how long do we need to stay in these safe zones to get permission to reopen our parks? So that's much, much different than Gavin Newsom saying Friday. And you have to kind of understand that contextual difference of what we're looking for here to really understand what the theme parks and the different cities are looking for so they can move forward and start to rebuild their economies. Disneyland Resort President Ken Potrock said in a statement, "We are disappointed with the state's lack of progress in providing the industry with guidance and clarity on reopening. We have proven we can operate responsibly with strict health and safety protocols at our properties around the world and at Downtown Disney here in Anaheim." Disney is doing whatever they can to move forward. We're seeing every day a new little bit of information drip and drop, that they're putting signs in new places, that they're thinking about taking Mickey and Friends parking structure and making it a walkway to the park. Death to the Trampion. But they're slowly moving as fast as they can, because once they get the guideline, once the guideline from the state of California is released, they want to make sure they have the smallest window possible between being able to claim a reopening for their park. And in many ways, I believe they just want to get the park open as soon as possible so the park can stay open for the long haul, meaning that if they can just get it open, they can weather whatever storms the future may have. But if they can't open and the world shifts or changes, it could just keep pushing back the inevitable delay on getting back open. And after 6 months of having your business closed and having your employees not showing up for work, it's getting pretty serious here. Part of all of this that fascinates me the most is, in the past, there's been a little bit of bickering between Disneyland and Anaheim and neighboring cities. There's a little bit of a power struggle there, right? Like, Disneyland generates a lot of money, so they want to throw their weight around and get their way. And then the different city government officials, they represent all the citizens of their cities. So sometimes it can look like the big conglomerate is bullying the city, so they fight back a little bit. No big deal. I mean, this is just human nature. This is just politics, and politics are wild right now. But these times have really strengthened the partnership between the parks and the communities that they represent, because all the little bickering that has happened over the last years, you can't worry about that now. Now everybody has to be worried about recovery, about getting their communities back to a position where they're earning money instead of bleeding it. So Orange County and Disneyland is pleading with the state of California to issue COVID-19 guidelines for safely reopening theme parks. Disneyland joined the California Attractions Parks and Association, the cities of Anaheim, Buena Park, and Garden Grove, as well as with Legoland California, in urging the state to issue COVID-19 guidelines that will let California theme parks reopen as soon as possible. And note, these cities listed, they're essentially business partners with the resorts that surround them. If you live in this area, you have really been able to see firsthand just how dependent the neighboring businesses and cities are with the theme parks that sit inside of them. It is literally a ghost town in huge portions of Anaheim. I mean, of course, right around the resort, it's unprecedented how crazy empty it is. But that emptiness, it goes on for blocks and blocks, miles and miles. The ripple of having the parks close, it's huge. It's easily noticeable. And the mayors of Anaheim, Buena Park, and Garden Grove called on Gavin Newsom on Wednesday, September 16th, to issue COVID-19 guidelines that would allow Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, and other California theme parks to safely reopen, and to start help slowing the economic bleeding from the businesses that have been shut down now for over 6 months. The time to issue a reopening guidelines for the theme parks is now, Anaheim Mayor Harry Sidhu said during a press conference across from Disneyland. We are confident in the ability to reopen safely and responsibly in Anaheim, and the time is right. It is absolutely imperative for the health of our community that Gavin Newsom issued guidelines so that the Disneyland Resort can reopen. Garden Grove Mayor Steve Jones said during the press conference, "They're ready and they know how to do it without adverse impacts. They can respond to whatever guidelines the governor's office has come up with. He just needs to issue them. There is no time to waste. Keeping the theme parks closed hurts families who cannot get back to work," Buena Park Mayor Fred Smith said during the press conference. "It hurts small businesses that depend on tourism and conventions. It hurts the cities, like Buena Park, that depend on hotel sales and revenues to care for our residents." And during all of this, Anaheim alone, unemployment has reached the historic figure of 15%, and the city's budget deficit has rose to over $100 million since the Disneyland Resort has been closed. The Disneyland Resort generates $162 million for Anaheim's general fund. Now, it's interesting to note that a few weeks back, California developed a new 4-tier system for business and city reopenings. And they also listed a huge line listing of what different businesses could reopen at what capacities. They also explained the guidelines that your city or county needs to stay in for 3 weeks to move up or back down in these 4 different levels. But one thing that was missing, and we've talked about it here in our daily news breakdowns, is how to reopen large-scale entertainment events, theme parks, stadiums. And I have to say that this is because they are worried, very, very worried about giving a green light to places like Disneyland that will not only service the people of Orange County, but all of the counties surrounding the theme park, as well as nearby states. People are ready to get to the park. People are ready to put this behind them. People want to get back to the magic. And the state of California is trying to hedge their bets on figuring out the safest way, the safest time to open the gates. Because once they open them, they know it's going to be near impossible to close them. And we have a couple of rough months that lie ahead of us. But the theme parks are making the absolute most of their downtime, creating and establishing signs all over the resort, telling guests how you have to wear your mask. It's mandatory, and newsflash, I learned this year, your nose is part of your face. Many of the attractions have had new dividers installed in them, and dedicated spots on the ground to enforce social distancing and managing a safe crowd flow. Hand sanitizer stations have popped up all over the park, and you can even go to the Disneyland app and it'll show you where the nearest hand sanitizer station is for you. You know, they always commented every 15 feet there's a trash can in Disneyland. It's going to be the same thing with the hand sanitizer. And all the experiences at the Disneyland Resort are being moved over to cashless transactions. Everything's digital. There's no reason to touch dirty money anymore. And we'll see general differences in the way that some attractions will manage their guests and their guest flow. But the one thing that Disney really can't take advantage of until they know what the guideline is and they get their opening window is retraining their cast members. Because if you bring the cast members in, you have to start paying the cast members. And let's say that the guideline literally could be do this, and then you can reopen your park in 120 days. What would you do then? Because who knows what would happen in 120 days? It's really important for Disneyland to get this window so they can recall their cast members and set up a game plan of, if we call cast members on this date, because we know we're going to be opening on this other date, we have a window to retrain everyone and get our parks ready. And friends, Disneyland is the #1 employer in Orange County. We're talking tens and thousands of cast members. This part of the process is not going to be fast. So to all the people that think literally the park could open in a day, yes, they've done an amazing job of putting up signs. Yes, they've done an amazing job of installing plexiglass. They've done an amazing job of redesigning the way that some of the attractions are going to run and how us, the guests, are going to navigate through the park. But they haven't had the ability to retrain all of their cast members. Until financially they know when they need to bring them back, they haven't even had the ability to call everybody and be like, yo, you good? You coming back? There's a great chance that they could lose a lot of their cast members. They'd have to rehire some folks, retrain some folks. Like, I believe that it could probably be 3 weeks to a month to get all of their staff on the same page on how to operate this new version of Disneyland. I mean, this is going to be groundbreakingly different than what we were all used to the last time we were in the parks, May 10th. Ken Pontrock said in a statement about the cast members returning, "Tens and thousands of people's livelihoods depend on our ability to operate, and we stand ready and willing to accelerate discussions with the governor and his team to make real progress towards our reopening and getting people back to work." The thing about Disneyland reopening is it's not Disneyland's decision alone. Of course, they have to get the guidelines from Governor Newsom in the state of California, but they also have to play ball with the unions. Because as if you remember, back in the summer when they announced that the park would be reopening for July 17th for the 65th anniversary, the unions did not feel that it was safe to return to work in that window. So there's a lot of moving chess pieces here, and the #1 thing that they need to get these other balls rolling are these guidelines. What do we need to do to get our park ready? What do we need to do to get our cities ready? And then they can create that window of asking their cast members, who's coming back to work? How are we going to do this? And let's get the training started. That, my friends, is a big window. And that is why we're in the middle of September and we're already seeing hotel reservations getting canceled into early October, because they know they can have the park ready, but the people make the magic. And the people are going to be the hardest part of all of this. And even though we don't know what the variable is on from getting the okay to being able to open the park, keep in mind last time it was 38 days. So even though the park may be more equipped for reopening, where are the cast members at 6 months after they went to work? Who's coming back? What's the union's opinion? That part is a massive variable. Now I want to break this down. California is not the enemy here. They're simply not the enemy here. They're actually a bit of an unsung hero because they're trying to do the right thing for their citizens. If Disneyland would have opened on July 17th, that day alone in the state of California, there were 10,000 new cases of COVID-19. You can only imagine the reopening the parks, all of the theme parks, Disneyland, Universal, that could drastically affect that 10,000 number. In July 22nd, 5 days after Disneyland was supposed to reopen, we had our all-time state high of 12,000 new cases in one day. You don't know if the parks would affect this But if this was on your shoulders, if this was your responsibility, how would you handle this? Would you just say, I don't care, I need to go to Small World? Or will you say, let's just try to make sure we have a clean and safe stretch ahead? Because it's easy to say yes, but it's so much harder to say no, especially a second time around. And just keep this in mind for a moment before you trash the governor and the state that we live in. 14,000 citizens of California have died of coronavirus in this state. If you were a top state official, you would carry that burden on your shoulders and in your mind. Matter of fact, today alone, 110 citizens have died of COVID-19 in the state of California. Imagine having the burden of giving everybody what they want and reopening the theme parks, but then knowing you're allowing 25, 30,000 people to congregate together and hope that people don't get so swept up into the magic that they forget to obey the rules. It's a huge, huge responsibility, and I don't think that anyone is doing this to make you angry or to make you mad. Everybody wants to get back to normal as quickly as possible, and the best way that you get there is, unfortunately, by playing it safe. When you don't know the future, when you don't know an unknown variable, it's always best to play it safe, especially when you're playing with human lives. I love Disneyland as much as you do, but I don't want to see anyone die. I don't want to see anyone get sick. And one of the best things that you can do is wear a mask. It's so easy to put a little bit of cloth on your face, and that helps out everyone, me and you. So, what can you do? I know that right now so many of us have felt really, really helpless. What can you do to reopen the parks as quickly as possible? Well, you can go to this website that was put together by some of the cities surrounding the Disneyland Resort as well as with Disneyland. It's called reopenocnow.com. And when you go there, there's a letter that you can sign. It's a quick petition that you can sign. And basically what this letter is saying that you want the state of California to give the parks and the surrounding cities the guidelines they need to follow to reopen the parks. It basically talks about how Disney has had a really, really safe track record on reopening other parks around the world. It talks about the economic damage that has been done due to the resort being closed to not only Anaheim, but surrounding cities. It also talks about how ultimately that citizens should be given the guidelines, should be given the choice to make decisions and to be able to get their businesses back open. Personally, I want the park to reopen. I know that it will be safe. The safest I felt in public this entire year has been at Downtown Disney. I'm going to sign this. I would encourage you to sign this because, once again, we're not looking for a specific date. We're looking for guidelines. And if there's anyone I can trust to follow the guidelines on crowd restrictions and public safety protocols, it's Disney. I feel like that they can do this. I feel like they can keep a safe environment. It'll feel different, but it'll be a safe environment. And my favorite thing about going to Downtown Disney and eventually going to Disneyland, it's so nice just to go somewhere in the world today where everyone is living by the same set of rules. And I wish that was just the case everywhere you go. All right, friends, I know this wasn't the funnest Disney news, and I know that it was a lot of details, and I know it was a lot of splaining, but let me know. Are you going to go over there? Are you going to sign the petition? Are you ready for the parks to get reopened? Are you ready to get back in? Are you ready to experience the magic? And as always with these videos, I will not engage in political talk below. I simply give you these stories to keep you informed, to let you know what's going on, and also try to give a clear, balanced view of this is what Disney wants, this is what the citizens want, this is what you want, but this is why California is doing what they're doing. I'm very much in the middle here, and I really don't think anyone is a villain. The cities want to see their citizens go back to work. The parks want to see money coming back in so they can all save their jobs. And folks like us, we just want to be able to have a little bit of escapism during some of the darkest times we've ever lived in. But on the other hand, the state of California, they're responsible for us all. They're responsible for these parks. They're responsible for these cities and all of the citizens that enjoy the park or on the other side of the fence of the cast members. They just want to keep Californians safe. And I don't think that is something to be overly criticized for. There you go. There's today's daily Disneyland news update. I'll see you tomorrow with another one. And by all means, if you're enjoying these updates, please do me a solid. Leave a comment below, give the video a like. These small actions really, really help the channel grow. It helps more and more people find my content, which helps me justify making more and more content. And the number one thing you could do to help me is subscribe to the channel and ring that little bell button. And then you'll know every morning there's a new piece of Disneyland news waiting for you over on YouTube. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'll see you real soon. Live the magic every day.